Welcome to another part of the interviews with Polish Team Chess Champion team members. Today our guest is Grandmaster Nils Grandelius. Welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, big congratulations for achieving the title, because it was your first time playing in both Polonia Wrocław, and secondly, I assume it was your first time in Polish Team Chess Championship as well.
Yeah, that is correct. So it was. I was very happy to manage to win already on the first try.
So, what are your thoughts on this dream debut?
Well, it was actually very unexpected, especially how the tournament progressed. Because, well, when we came there, of course, we had won the previous year. We had a stronger team than last time. We were very ambitious, but then we didn't do that well in the beginning. We lost 2 matches, and I mean, things weren't exactly looking like we were going to win. Yeah, I mean, to be absolutely frank, we thought it would be very unlikely at some point. So that's why it was even nicer, because it was also sort of unexpected and a really nice comeback.
Okay, so what do you think was the key to the overall success? Because you mentioned you were in tough situation. So what, in your opinion, made you overcome this?
I think definitely when Jola started to play, I mean, she really started to play very well, because she came from this world teams in Spain. She was very tired, exhausted. Somehow our female reserve could not play after all, so she had to play all the games, and it was a bit, I mean, it was quite tough for her. I can very well understand it. And she also lost, for instance, to Monika Soczu quite early in the tournament. But then at some point things turned around, and she started to play really well. And I think especially in this 7th round, she made a very crucial win with White from a quite dubious position. So I really think that that was one of the key factors. Of course, as well, I mean, the rest of us also didn't play that badly, especially Master Vasilis also scored a very solid, I think, +3 or even +4, which certainly helped. But by feeling, it was really when this last board turned around, because it started very sort of dubiously, and then she finished like the real hero. I mean, also in the last round. But by the last round, to be honest, we already expected that she would win, because she was in such good shape. So.
Okay, so you talked about the play. So what can you say about your own play during the tournament?
Yeah, well, I don't have a lot to say in my defense. Yeah, what can I? No, I mean, the margins are always very small, of course, in chess. And for instance, in the 2nd round, I was white against Arychenko. I played a fairly good game. I was winning in the time scramble quite easily. Then after move 40, I was still winning. And finally, I made some mistakes, and he saved the game by 1 tempo, which, I mean, some would say was a bit unlucky for me. And then from there on, I mean, I struggled to win any games at all. And although, I mean, I did not collapse completely, because after all, I only lost 1 game, and I had a solid result. But I was, of course, hoping for more. I was more ambitious than that. But well, I did manage to win a good game in round 8, and it turned out also to be quite an important important point for the team. So. I mean, that's something at least for me, but I'm certainly hoping to play better next time.
Okay, so let's jump straight into the game. You played with black against Grandmaster Wojciech Moranda, Polish, one of the strongest Polish players currently. You played with the black pieces, and after the opening, we've got a position like this. The endgame arose from the Knight of Sicilian, so what can you say about the position right now, and what made you win this game?
Well, the position right now is a very typical Sicilian ending. Normally speaking, the endings are always good for black in the Sicilian, but here it's a little bit trickier, because I have played the move b5, which means that I have given up a very bad square on c6 for white's knight. So that's what makes this position a bit shaky for me. On the other hand, my sort of strategy for the game was to get my opponent out of his preparation, because he's normally excellently prepared, and also that he was more, let's say, a middle game kind of guy, yeah, rather than an end game guy. So even if the ending might be slightly worse for me, I was fine playing it, because it's not like I'm lost or anything like that. I'm maybe slightly worse, but there is a lot of play, and there is also a lot of potential to outplay my opponent. So I mean, probably white is a little bit better, but I was quite happy.
Okay, so let's look at the game. Bishop e7, rook d1, bishop d8. It's like the typical Najdorf maneuver, right?
Yeah, it's a typical Najdorf maneuver, but normally you do it like to stop the knight from reaching a5. Yeah, now the knight is already on h5, so on a5, sorry. So I mean, I'm a little bit late with the bishop, but yeah, it's still very typical. But I think, well, if he, for instance, now plays the move knight c6, which is a very natural move, then even a move like knight b8 can be very solid for black, just trading off. So like white also has to play quite well to maintain the initiative, because as soon as I kick him back, let's say he would retreat the knight, then for sure black would be doing absolutely fine, if I'm not better already. So
can you play a5 right now?
Yeah, exactly. a5 will be coming, and so on.
Yeah.
So that's why in the game after bishop d8 he played like the most ambitious way. He played rook a3, and I think this position is really the most critical one, at least from my perspective, let's say, as black in the game, because now white is threatening to move the knight, and then my pawn on a6 would be hanging. It's not so easy to defend against that. And I play the move rook a8, and rook a8 is, I mean, it's a very simple move in some sense. I just protect my pawn, but it's also, at least for me, it was a very tough move to make, because I go away from the open file. I put the rook on a very, very passive square, and it just feels, incredibly ugly to make such a move.
Yeah.
But I was sort of inspired by our first pod, Hari Krishna, that he likes to say that if you have to do something, just do it. Yeah, like don't think about it. And this is a very clear case in point. Like if I don't want to lose my pawn, I have to put my rook there. So finally, I pulled myself together and I just made it. Yeah, and let's see what happens. So.
Okay.
And after this move, he was clearly, clearly he didn't know what to do. Like no longer any clear plan for how to develop the initiative. And basically, I think I'm equalizing here.
Okay, so he went knight b7. He tried some.
He's still trying this sort of very concrete way. Yeah, like he doesn't just want to make moves. He wants to all the time threaten something. So.
King e7, rook c3, rook b8, and now, okay, so as he went rook c3, he doesn't have the ability to retreat the knight anymore, so he committed right now, really, really much.
Exactly, but on the other hand, like he has to do something, yeah, like otherwise I will slowly break free. My next move, if I'm allowed, is bishop c7, and then I can bring my other rook to c8 or b8. Like this, and then I have all my pieces in the game, and I'm doing fine. So rook c3 is sort of still, I mean, it's a way for white to keep playing for the advantage, let's say, but it's also risky because I mean, so very soon he ended up being worse.
Yeah, just quite magically you made some mostly natural moves except for this one, rook a8, and then you ended up in a very, very good position to win the game.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I get one more move here, I'm clearly bad. Like white has no play at all. Like if I get, let's say, rook dc8 next move, because then the pawn on d5 is actually weak. I can attack it with my knight. The bishop can't defend it, and also my majority is much more flexible on the king side. So, so the whole idea for white, or Moranda's idea, was to enter with the rook on c6. I mean, still utilizing this sort of weak square, but there are simply too few pieces left for it to be a problem for me.
Yeah, so he tried bringing another rook, but your pawns are pretty much safe right now.
They are pretty much safe, and like he's trying like with every move, he's still trying to claim that he's better, let's say, yeah. But he's also creating weaknesses for himself by every move, and like I think already black's position is much easier to play.
Yeah, before stopping the rook from coming to both of the squares, and now c3. It's another great commitment from him.
Exactly, another very risky move. Like you wouldn't play this move if you don't think that you're better. But on the other hand, there is no reason white is better. So
Yeah.
I mean, like, no, what he should do is he should try to just, play very solidly, like trade some pieces, maybe play a3 instead, not to create weaknesses and just.
And because now you don't really want to tag because the rook will capture and your pawn will
and then
be
my
weak.
pawn on a5 would be weak and so on. So I don't know exactly what I would play, but most probably like we will trade more pawns. Maybe at some point I trade b4 for d5, and we are getting closer to a draw. Yeah? So it would have been much more solid for white to play in that way.
Yeah, but he went c3, takes rook, takes c3. Couldn't he take another way around? Like
he could take with other rook, but then rook b5 is the point. And again, this pawn on d5 is very weak.
Okay.
I was thinking maybe his idea was to sacrifice, play something like rook c7 and try rook takes d5, rook a7, double on the 7th rank. And but again, like there are so few pieces left, so it's hard to believe that white is actually, having a nice attack or anything like that. My king will be very solid on e6.
Yeah, you can even step from the pin just
exactly. So it's like I thought something like that was his idea, because otherwise it didn't really make sense what he did, because he just creates weaknesses for himself.
Yeah, now rook b7, doubling up, and suddenly the pawn on b2, seemingly not that weak, might become a target.
Yeah, definitely, and still the pawn on d5 also a big target. So it was a bit ironic that it was neither of those two pawns that finally dropped. Yeah.
Yeah. Rook
so yeah, this b3, knight b6, and here I think white really should take the knight. And just really try to make a draw. I still slightly prefer black because I have 2 pawn islands and he has 3 pawn islands, so my structure is a little bit more solid. d5 is a little bit weak, but still it's a rook ending, and like drawing margin should be quite big, I would assume.
Do you have any clear plan? Did you have any clear plan as black to progress or to win?
That's the plan. Like f5, g5, try to get g4 at some point.
Create some passer, right?
Exactly, and also my king. Like if I'm ever allowed, like king f6 and enter on, like to push e4 and enter with the king to e5, then my king is also much more active than his king, basically. Especially if we trade one set of rooks, but and also again this pawn on d5 is slightly weak. So there are some potential IDs for black, and the problem for white, there are not really any counter IDs. Yeah, he can just defend against my. So it's slightly sad, but it's also like a very professional way to play for white. Like really.
Yeah, he had to realize.
You have to stop dreaming at some point. Yeah,
he had to realize it's time to
exactly.
just settle down.
The reason basically he lost is that he didn't realize that he was already worse.
Yeah, rook c2 and now king d7.
Yeah, just stopping any rook c7 later on and so on.
Just taking the c file under control, and now a4. It's a little bit weird, but on the other hand, you want to play a4 by yourself right now.
Yeah, probably I want to play a4. Yeah. So a4, it was sort of expected because it's still like in the same spirit. Yeah, he wants to fixate my pawn on a5 on a dark square so that he can attack it with his bishop, and he's still basically trying, to make progress. But of course, he's also like it's a very, very risky move, a4, because b3 now is very weak.
Especially as you're doubled against it.
Exactly, like in that sense, it's quite illogical. It's simply he simply completely lost track of the evaluation, I would say. It's not so much the moves, but rather the evaluation that is the problem for him.
Yeah, because if he knew,
he thinks he's better when he should try hard to make a draw.
Yeah, if he knew he's like on the verge of being worse, I guess he would have went for the just a draw, right?
Yeah, he would exactly. He would try to either trade my knight or just at least not create new weaknesses for himself.
Yeah, and you went f5, just taking some control initiative.
Exactly. Also, at some point threatening, like e4 could be a little bit annoying for him. But also, if I'm allowed, f4 followed by g5 and g4 still. Although I have to admit there was another very interesting move which I underestimated during the game.
Okay, so let's see how the game concluded. It wasn't that long. He went bishop d2.
Yeah, sure.
And he blundered the a4 pawn, so that's quite unlucky, because if the white takes the knight, then we have a cute checkmate on b1. King is stuck.
Exactly.
And if he maybe wants to trade the pawns, bishop a5, I guess knight c5 is just winning, right?
Exactly, knight c5. And the problem, like, everything is hanging. Yeah, rook is hanging, pawn, king, bishop. Like, I will win a lot of material, actually.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I will win, in fact, at least 2 pawns, no matter what he does.
So he just resigned.
He just resigned, which actually I sort of expected.
Yeah, after blundering and to that type of lost position, it's quite understandable. So what was the move you said you underestimated here?
And yeah, instead of f5, for me, actually, I could play immediately the move knight a8, which is very nice as well. And the idea is to go with knight to c7 and then either to a6, and I have nice squares on b4 and on c5 and so on. Yeah, and also the b3 pawn is very weak. So that was another very interesting option. But I could also, for instance, do it in the game on the next move. If like after f5, if he does play some other move.
What type of move do you suggest?
No, that's the problem. It's like I had no idea what he wanted to play. No, I guess from an objective point of view, probably still taking the knight is the best try, and then king b2 and then defend b3.
But still,
it's a very sad way of playing, because now really.
Yeah, earlier he had just one weakness on d5 in that rook endgame. Now there are 2 clear weaknesses, d5 and b3.
Exactly.
So it's.
But also this simple plan of just pushing my pawns on the king side is like, it's so easy for me, especially in a practical game. Yeah, I just push my pawns and they get closer to queen. Yeah, and what is he doing in the meantime? Yeah,
totally no counter idea. So a very great and instructive play by you. I'm really I really appreciate it, because you can learn quite a lot from this game, not only from the chess point of view, but also from the psychological point of view, because the whole idea of not realizing the correct evaluation of the position was like the most important factor in the result, I assume.
Yeah, no, in that sense, it was a very interesting game. Also, it's always, interesting that you don't always have to give mate just because you play Sicilian. Yeah, sometimes you should just try to win the ending, which it always is a good lesson as well.
Okay, so the final question from me is: will we see you in the next Polish Team Chess Championships in the future?
I really hope so. I know I had a great time with the team, and I think they also really appreciate. Maybe not my number of points, but at least my company was appreciated, I hope so. No, that's definitely the plan, that I will be back.
Yeah, Harry mentioned that the team spirit is the most important factor for him, so he will surely be rooting for you to come back.
Yeah, but you can also see it from the result. Like, we are not the highest rated team at all, and we won also last year. And like, usually in a team, when that happens, it's because of the team spirit. Yeah, people are fighting for each other, and they are playing a little bit better than they usually do. And not only like they are playing better, but they are also, playing. They are winning when it matters. Yeah, and when it doesn't matter, okay, they don't have to win. Yeah, and that's a very typical thing that happens in a good team, or in a team with good spirit. Yeah, that the points, they are maybe not more in total numbers, but they come at exactly the right moment. And this is, I really feel, that we have in our team.
Okay, so thank you very much for the interview and giving the insights from the Grandmaster Laboratory about the end games. And see you soon. Goodbye.